Hello my friends, and welcome back to another Brotato Ultimate Nightmares run, where we take the characters that are hardest to beat in the new Nightmare mode, as chosen by you, and try to win with them. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're playing the Cyborg, which is a pretty complicated and weird character. The way this character works is, you gain extra ranged damage, but all of your ranged damage turns to engineering halfway through the wave. So for the first half of the wave, you're a very powerful ranged attacker, but for the second half of the wave, that all turns into engineering, so you need to kind of split your focus. The easiest way to win with the Cyborg is to use screwdrivers in addition to your ranged weapons. The reason for that is that Screwdriver scales off of engineering, so when all of our ranged damage turns into engineering, we can still be a weapon attacker, and we don't have to rely on structures for the second half of the wave. Obviously, we'll still buy any that show up, but it's really nice to be able to focus this character on killing things with our weapons, no matter which half of the wave we're in. The Cyborg has some pretty powerful advantages. You buy ranged damage at triple the normal rate, which is, of course, incredibly strong. And so that's going to give us a ton of engineering for our screwdrivers to actually hit things. I'm going to lock this and we'll roll. We also, because we have a minigun, start with, secretly, one of the very best healing items in the game. Minigun gives you the ability to use lifesteal extremely efficiently, so this character, despite being a melee character, can still use lifesteal really well, which most of them don't get easy access to. Of course, there are some pretty severe downsides as well. We need to kill elites really quickly before our damage swaps over. So we need enough ranged damage to make sure that we're doing that. And the fact that we swap halfway through means that we're going to turn from a really dangerous ranged attacker into a kind of wimpy melee attacker partway through. So because the second half of waves is so much harder than the first, we're going to have to spend a lot of effort making sure that our character survives the second half of those waves. I'm going to roll here looking for more screwdriver levels, and we're also looking for a submachine gun. I want to add a second ranged weapon just to make certain that we can kill elites quickly and keep down the more dangerous enemies at the beginning of the run. So we want another ranged weapon of some kind, and submachine gun is usually the one that we're going to add. Obviously, we'll take a second minigun if a second minigun shows up. That would be the ideal, but SMG does a reasonable minigun impression. It's the Walmart minigun. Here, I'm going to roll... I'm going to take the +1 ranged damage. I just didn't see it at the end here. We want to build as much ranged damage as we possibly can. Now, we can't, unfortunately, use this engineering effectively because engineering that we buy is reduced by 75%, so we'd only get 1, so this is half of a level 1 engineering upgrade. But instead, we'll just take 5 more harvesting. We're going to try to get to harvesting max. Obviously, on this character, we don't want Scared Sausage. Non-weapon sources of damage in general for this character, we're mostly trying to avoid. I will take a jelly, and we'll lock a mutation, and then I'll roll. Blunderbuss is a sort of interesting option, but I don't think we're interested in it. We want our ranged weapons to work just consistently, not to be something that we're setting up for. That's supposed to be the easy half of the wave, so we don't want to make it trickier at all by requiring ourselves to kill other things in order to attack with the blunderbuss first. I will build Curse in this run, because we're on the Abyss. And we should be able to kill both Curse aliens, and we did. So we got there, we got a crate, that's great. We'll take Duct Tape, of course. We're going to be a melee character for the second half of every wave, so we want a lot of regeneration, a lot of lifesteal, a lot of armor, just to stay alive during those portions of the run. I'm going to roll here, and I'll take 2 more armor as well. I really want, I wanted to get to 21 harvesting. I also really wanted to pick up more ranged damage, but we do have a mutation locked. I'll lock acid as well. My max HP is really low. We'll buy a screwdriver, we'll buy a lens, and we'll roll again, and then we're going to take both of these items as well. Since I found Broken Mouth, which is much more efficient, do I want to still buy the acid? I think I do. I still do need more maximum health after that. So as always, on any ranged character, the item that we're looking for the most probably is small magazine, but anything that gives us flat ranged damage is something that we are pretty interested in. I will say that I think we got, I guess, a little lucky on which map we're on. I think that Crash Zone is quite a bit harder for the Cyborg than the Abyss, because you don't deal well with the enhanced flies on Wave 16. The challenge there, of course, is that we're still going to have our minigun and our submachine gun, so we're going to be creating a lot of... Oh, nice. +3 range damage. Incredible. We're going to be creating a lot of projectiles. I'll pick up the whistle here and roll. Buy another screwdriver. We'll lock a beanie. And while we still have guaranteed weapons in the shop, I'm going to roll again. I do really want a second ranged weapon still. Though... it's totally possible to just use only the minigun on this character as well. Making sure to kill those anemones before our damage converts over, because they're the most dangerous enemy here. And they're much harder for melee characters to deal with, so we want to make sure that we get them early. We'll take out this loot alien... and you can see that our screwdrivers hit pretty hard because they scale with 50% of our engineering, which we have quite a lot of already, even though we've only built ranged damage a few times. Tripling the amount that you get just means that your stats are really high on this character. Okay, so I could take the knot here. This actually is not a totally ridiculous item to take at this point. Now, we're using screwdrivers, which you do want to upgrade. I'm going to recycle it, but again, as always, this is a spot where I think Knot isn't necessarily just a clear winner, but it is still a very powerful item that you should always consider. I'm going to roll here and roll again. I'll take some move speed just so my move speed is positive. We'll buy all of these items and roll, and then I'll buy a mutation. Take the injection. I need high % damage. Bonk Dog, unfortunately, doesn't do anything for us. I'll roll again. I will take a Spyglass. I think that we can benefit from that reasonably well. And we'll take the Acid again as well, because my max HP remains really poor. One thing we have given up on is we've reduced our knockback by a lot. And sometimes knockback can actually be pretty good for this character, because the minigun and submachine gun that you will usually end up with apply it really quickly and end up using it pretty well. So here you can see we swapped over to the engineering phase, but we're just going to kill stuff by hitting it with our screwdrivers. Also, I'm just pretty much ignoring what the landmines are doing. The reason we're using screwdriver is not because they generate landmines, but because they scale with engineering, and so they give us just a powerful melee weapon. Here, I'm going to roll. I'm looking for ranged damage, and yeah, we're going to take 3 ranged damage. We'll buy all of these, but we're short on buying the acid again. We'll upgrade screwdriver, buy lemonade, and roll, and yep, we're going to buy this entire shop. Very unusual not to have a second ranged weapon at this point. I will say that that is something that is normally easier to find. That's going a little differently in this run. One other thing to pay attention to is how long each wave is for this character. You don't want to get caught by surprise by your damage types switching over. So you need to know what halfway through each wave is. So look at the top of the map at the start of the wave, and then with some quick math, you can tell when you're going to change damage types. We'll take the tentacle here, and then I'm going to re-roll this. All right, 3 lifesteal. That gives me some actual healing, which we've been sorely missing right now. We'll buy everything here and re-roll. I'm ending up with a lot of max HP. I'm going to ban the boxing glove. Do I actually want Alienize because we're buying so much maximum health? It's not completely ridiculous, but I think it's generally just too weak an item on Nightmare mode. And I think for the Cyborg, you really don't want to focus on non-weapon sources of damage, usually. Although this character's weapons are kind of weird, all of the benefits that you get for playing this character are based on your weapons, because they're just lots of extra stats. And so you just want to focus around the bonus stats that you get. Trying to clear this hatcher. I definitely need a little more attack speed as well. And we'll kill that big slasher. I've also put myself in an awkward position in this wave because I went to the left of the map, which is where the projectiles were spawning from. If I had fled to the right of the map when I went to the engineering phase, I'd have taken less damage from projectiles spawning on top of me. So a bit of a mistake there. We'll take some armor and then, nice, we'll buy these. We'll ban white flag and get our free reroll off of that. Okay, so this is a ranged weapon, the nuclear launcher. This is a totally reasonable ranged weapon, I think, to have as our second one. We'll add a screwdriver, we'll buy nuclear launcher. It only scales with 100% of our ranged damage, and doesn't attack that fast, so it doesn't use the bonus ranged damage that we get as well as the minigun does, but it's still a powerful weapon. Because I have the nuke launcher, I can also buy Ice Cube. This is an elemental damage weapon, so it's going to apply the Ice Cube debuff to everything. And then, given that I think I will just upgrade my minigun to level 4 and still buy the nuke launcher because I bought Ice Cube. It is a little funny the way that this worked out, because I probably would have just gone for a second minigun and not bought the nuke launcher without the Ice Cube, but I actually like the ability to debuff everything. And obviously upgrading our minigun is going to help as well for killing elites and bosses quickly anyways. But that was a funny sequence that didn't go exactly as you would normally plan for it to. One thing we haven't been offered any of is any structures. We would really have liked to be able to pick up a pocket factory, an incendiary turret, a tiler, something like that. Just anything that will scale well off of the high engineering that we get in the second half of the wave. Double Cursed Walrus. Scary at the end of wave 10, but we survived here. And you can see that our high lifesteal is doing a lot of work for us. We'll take the goblet, and then I will take the jelly. We're going to end up with 3 different weapon types. I'm going to take 15 luck here. We have -6 dodge, so I'm not that interested in building dodge. And then we'll keep boosting our lifesteal. Alright, so given that we're going into the Horde wave, I'm going to take the nuke launcher. Which means combining here, take the nuke launcher and buy coffee, and we'll wait to upgrade our minigun. And then I'm going to roll past these, we'll buy coffee. I'll take a decomposing flesh as well, because I want a ton of lifesteal, and then I will lock a scar. Obviously, we're taking the nuke launcher for the Horde wave because it's much better than an upgraded minigun on a Horde wave, since it clears an explosion. And the nice thing about the nuke launcher is its base damage is high enough that even though I should be at the bottom of the map also, because again, the projectiles are coming from the top. Its base damage is high enough that even though we don't have any of our ranged damage right now, it can still help clear the wave on the engineering portion. I'm going to try to run for the trees here and use these consumables to maybe have the chance to drop the loot alien. Didn't quite get there, but I think it was worth the effort. I'll take the bean teacher, we'll buy propeller hat, and then we'll just take 3 more armor. Here, we'll buy Scar and upgrade our minigun and roll. I can never buy Peaceful Bee on this character because we would lose 3 ranged damage doing that. Do I want Starfish? It's pretty risky, and I think I'm going to pass on it. Starfish is an item that's very powerful, but that I actually find I have been buying a lot less on Nightmare mode. Just because 15% increased enemy damage is really hard to overcome. The extra income takes a while to pay off, and you end up just dying before you get there a lot of the time, because it's more about finding defensive stats on Nightmare mode than it is about having high economy frequently. Wolf Helmet, I think it's not worth 200 for just 20 luck. We can't use the elemental damage on this character. Because we left a lot of materials on the ground last wave, we're going to try to make certain that we're picking them up this wave. I need some more flat ranged damage, because right now, our damage output just isn't high enough for me to comfortably be able to kill the upcoming elite. And we have a Horde wave next. I'm not as worried about the Horde wave, but the elite you really need to kill before your damage types swap over when you're playing the Cyborg, so I want to make certain that we have the damage output to be able to do that. Try to get this tree before the end of the wave as well. And there we go. We'll take the stone skin. We've ended up with a lot of max HP, that's funny. And then I'm going to take 2 lifesteal, and here I'm going to re-roll and pick up 3 more armor. Getting to 14 armor is great. So we do buy engineering at a reduced rate on this character. You maybe sometimes can still buy Lighthouse, because you still get 5 engineering from it, but we have 4 screwdrivers, reducing its effect. I just don't think it's worth it here. I will take the defective steroids, I think. Actually, what I might do is just buy these 2 and then ban these 2. We don't really need the max HP from defective steroids. You can't get melee damage, so you can't scale your screwdrivers with it. And then we'll just ban these 2 items and get our reroll. Alright, all is forgiven. We got a Cursed Pocket Factory, so that's going to be really good damage for us in the second half of waves. And I'll take a Shackles as well. The plus 80 range is actually sort of relevant for screwdrivers. I don't care at all about reducing my movement speed. We get 2 engineering, which is fine as well, but mostly we get to positive regeneration, so we can actually start building regeneration, which is pretty helpful. Speaking of which, I will take a scarf. Actually, no, I can't take a scarf going into a Horde wave. That's too dangerous. So we'll just lock the penguin and go to the next wave here. We're going to have pufferfish explosions for the first half of all of these waves, of course. In the second half, it'll still happen sometimes, though less frequently, because most of our kills are going to be with screwdriver attacks. But now we also have some turrets, because we have significantly increased tree spawns, so our turrets are actually contributing some reasonable damage as well. Unfortunately, the mini-boss is pretty hard to get to, because we're basically a melee character at this point in the wave, so we have to actually get adjacent to it to kill it. The book, we would get half in engineering. I think I'm just going to recycle that. I'll definitely take scope. We obviously need more attack speed, but you can never pass ranged damage on this character. A roll here, and then I will take 15 attack speed, and probably just take 15 luck. The 15 luck here will help keep my healing high, since we can drop consumable healing, and we have 3 consumable healing to go with that. We'll buy bag, penguin, head injury. My percent damage is pretty bad. I'll take pile of books as well. We don't have a ton of crit chance, but our structures critting is still pretty powerful. And then I will buy sad tomato, and I'm going to buy the alien tongue also, because we're pretty reliant on consumable healing still. And with 2 items locked, we'll just go to the next wave. So this is a Horde wave, of course. I would love piercing shot as well. Not only would that be good for my nuke launcher, because it's incredibly strong for nuclear launchers to have piercing shots. You'll basically double the damage that it does every time, because it'll hit the first enemy and explode, hit whatever's behind it and explode, and because it has a large explosion radius, it'll almost always just... the explosions will just hit both enemies. But also, piercing shots would be really good for our pocket factory turrets. So that would be one of the more powerful things we could find. I am going to try to clear some of these trees, and I wanted to pick up materials in the middle of the wave. I didn't go for them quite fast enough. I probably should have done that earlier. I need attack speed really badly, but you can never go wrong taking 3 armor, so we're just going to do that. And I'll buy the blindfold, because 128 for 5 crit chance isn't great, but we actually have some pretty significant benefits from crit chance, and screwdrivers do really well with critical chance because they have increased critical damage. A roll here, we'll buy a coupon. I'll lock a mushroom as well, and then I'm going to re-roll. Bottom line is great, and we can upgrade our screwdriver. Cursed Peacock, can I buy that going into wave 16? I think I can. 27% enemy damage is dangerous, but nowhere near as bad as Peacock normally is, so I think we can get away with it. Use the ranged damage portion of the waves to clear the hatchers, and definitely do not want a bunch of enhanced flashers spawning, so we gotta get rid of those guys quickly. With the nuke launcher, I felt pretty confident we could just blow up all of the lampreys. Now we're in the engineering half of the wave, so need to run after the hatcher. We'll get some curse alien kills. This is a cursed hatcher. You can't really tell because we're damaging it so much, but it did have the purple. Managed to pick up enough materials that we're not carrying them over from wave to wave, which is also important. So we survived there, and we'll take the padding. Take 12% damage. My percent damage is very poor right now. And we will upgrade our weapon, buy some more defensive stats, buy more ranged damage, and roll again. I'll take a loot worm, and I'll lock all of these things. I'm not going to bother locking the goldfish. Typically, I don't think you should lock goldfish. It's more of a for fun item than an actually good item. So this wave is definitely dangerous. I do not want to let a bunch of mini-bosses spawn, because this is a peacock wave, so enemies are doing 30% more damage than normal. And clear those enhanced vampire squids, but our nuke launcher is making that pretty easy. Those enemies are dangerous because they hide behind other stuff so frequently, but with the nuclear launcher, enemies just have nowhere to hide. Double cursed enhanced walrus, the double horny walrus, is obviously really scary. I mean, you know, if I saw that in real life, you can bet I'd be running. Glass cannon. I think I will take the glass cannon. It hurts a lot to lose 3 armor and 3 health, but glass cannon is still powerful here because our percent damage was really bad. I'm going to take 3 range damage over 15 attack speed. I need both stats, but buying 9 ranged damage is so good. I don't need more max HP, so I'm going to roll here, and we'll take 4 lifesteal. That really fixes my healing on this character quite a bit. I don't actually need the loot worm at this point, now that I think about it. It's probably too late for leaving materials on the ground to be much of a thing, so I'm just going to ban it, actually use my ban. I'll buy the bag, and we'll buy Tyler and Banner as well, and then go to wave 17. I do like loot worm, but that way we got to get a free reroll. We didn't spend a bunch of money on an item that honestly will not be that impactful for the remaining couple waves. Yes, we're leaving materials on the ground, but it's mostly the mid-game where you really have to worry about that. By the end game, you should be able to run out and pick up the materials manually, right? We can just go get them. If we're leaving materials on the ground, we don't need our loot worm to do it for us. Having lost all our knockback is a slight problem this wave, because it makes the Stargazers more dangerous. We'll take the bat. I definitely am not taking a peacock this wave, and then I'm going to roll here. I'll take 7 crit chance. That'll help us kill the elite faster, which we really want. Dodge we can't build, so we're gonna obviously not buy gambling token, but we will buy these other items and roll. And I mean, we can build dodge, but not at this point in the run, really. I'll pick up the duct tape, going back up to 15 armor, pretty important, and it does only cost us 1 HP as well, even though the engineering that we get from it is not significant. Campfire, when cursed, seems pretty nice as well. I'll take a corrupted shard, and then we'll go to wave 18. And then the goal here is to kill the elite really fast, using our very high base damage. So we're focusing damage from... Oh, okay, I walked into every single projectile there for no reason at all. Focusing damage from our minigun on it, which should kill it quickly. Now, it took a little bit longer because I just ran along its attack and had to go heal up, but we got it right before we transitioned to the engineering phase. So even though I played that wave about as badly as I possibly could have, we had built the character correctly, and that carried my poor movement. Obviously, the other important thing about... I will take the explosive shells because we do have a nuke launcher here. It's bad in the second half of the waves, but it is fairly powerful at the beginning. And then I'm going to just take 16% damage to kind of offset the damage loss. The other thing that's worth mentioning about this character is that if you find Nail, then the character just becomes broken. If your ranged weapons also scale off of engineering, you can just build entirely ranged damage, and you just end up with an absurdly powerful character. Gentle Alien, I'm going to buy. The economy boost isn't significant at this point, but we need more % damage, and having more enemies on the field is good for our consumable healing and for our lifesteal in the last wave. So we actually benefit significantly from having more enemies around. A lot of the time, I think people think more enemies is more dangerous, but that's not always true. Once your build has come together, having enemies is mostly a source of healing for you, rather than a source of pressure. And so, specifically in the boss wave, having more enemies around to be able to lifesteal off of can often be advantageous. Also, our explosion damage, the explosive shells, works with our landmines, of course. But you'll notice that I'm basically completely ignoring the landmines. They're just not super important. At this point in the run, they're starting to do stuff, but we really want to consider ourselves as a melee character in the second half of the run, first and foremost, and an engineering character secondarily. We'll buy more ranged damage. That'll help us kill the bosses faster. And we'll take the metal plate here. I'll roll. More ranged damage. Roll again. Obviously, cursed handcuffs. Incredible. I guess I'll take the jelly first. And then we can cap our health at a higher value. Though, probably I should have just bought the turret instead of the jelly. Being at slightly higher HP doesn't really matter. And I'm going to roll here. We won't lose health from the padding, just from rolling. The dynamite I would take as well. And then we'll go to wave 20. So I want to kill the whale boss first, because it's typically got the more dangerous attack patterns. So we're focusing our damage on that while we're still in the ranged damage phase. I've ended up with good, but not spectacular damage output in this run. And so we might not kill both bosses before we transition between damage types. But Pocket Factory actually gives us really good insurance if that starts happening, because Pocket Factory kind of grows in damage over the course of the wave. And we've set up a ton of turrets by the second half, which allows, when we swap over and have a million engineering, those Pocket Factory turrets are actually doing quite a lot. All right, so let's look at our items here. So you can see, obviously in the last wave, it ended during the range damage half. So our minigun was the big performer, 70,000 damage, nuke launcher for 18k. Looking at our gardens, I wish it told you how much healing you got from gardens. I know that would probably be hard to code, but it would be nice. Spyglass saved us 170, but the tooltip here is wrong. It actually saves you more money than is shown in the tooltip, which we figured out a few videos ago. Tentacle, 182 healing, not bad at all. The Goblet, 226 healing, also not bad at all. And we can't tell how much damage our Pocket Factory turrets did, because that's tracked on the turret item, not the Pocket Factory. So if I'd bought that turret at the end there, we'd have known. I guess when I moused over it, it would have shown the damage. 420 materials from bag, so, you know, it's the funny number. We got 170 saved from coupon. Bottom mine dealt 24,000 damage and made 65 landmine, so that was great. The Peacock and Bean Teacher let us hit level 27, which was pretty awesome. Even the Tyler that we got pretty near the end of the game dealt 11,000 damage, because it scales off of our engineering at 90%, and that stat is so high. So hopefully that gives you some idea of how to win with the Cyborg. I know that this is a character a lot of people have been struggling with, but once you switch your thinking into saying, I am a weapon attacking character, not a character that changes from a gun build to an engineering build halfway through, it becomes a lot easier to understand how the Cyborg works. Alright, my friends, hope that you've enjoyed this run, and of course, if you have, feel free to leave a comment and hit like. Helps me out with the algorithm, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And of course, you can subscribe to my channel for more Brotato and other strategy game analysis. Cheers, folks. I'll catch you next time.